Hello everyone, and welcome to this highly unplanned stream. Do let me know if my audio levels are somewhat good. Or, you know, at least tolerable. So, I was gonna watch a Zig Software Foundation roadmap presentation, but it got postponed to tomorrow because of some connectivity issues, so I'm just going straight back to work. I had reserved some time for that. That didn't happen, so let's do some blendering instead. Blendering today. So, we have a few viewers. Welcome everyone, even though this was just like almost like completely unannounced. That's fun. Let's see what we will be doing today. So, I've been working on this truck vehicle for some time, and I think this works well enough in the game. Let's run the game quickly to sort of show what we're dealing with here. Yeah, we can go into that one. I've been sort of putting off actually texturing this guy for a while, because once you start texturing something, it just becomes like order of magnitude more difficult to actually change it, right? So here we have one of these trucks. Been doing quite a lot of work on this guy when it comes to like the functionality and all of that. We can switch to this if we want to, or we can have it follow us around. Hello truck, please come to me. It still lacks an engine sound, but the rest of the stuff is slowly coming together. We have particle systems getting spawned from the wheels. A little difficult to see though, because it's not driving very fast. And the particle systems are very sort of placeholdery anyway. But yeah, it is completely untextured. I'm just using some different colored kind of like blockout materials, and that's how different parts of the thing have different colors. But I think it's basically working well enough now that we can actually start to texture it. I don't think it will necessarily need to tweak it that much anymore. So let's get started with that today. So can I lift this thing? Burp? Yes, I can. It's just very, very heavy. I even realized today that I can even lift like other cars with this. It's actually ridiculously powerful. You can see that the weight is distributed a little stupidly there. Let's just drop it down. But for example, we can lift one of these cars. There's a car inside here. We might actually be able to lift. Yeah, another thing that's kind of annoying with like not having textures is that like oh man, I think I'm actually like pull it out of the thing now without hitting that roof. We can, and I can actually even switch to this guy and go like, I want to drive. But it's not very easy to drive when you're being held in the air like this. I demand that you put me down. Yeah, and then you can just go. I wanna take this somewhere. Just throw it in the back and you drive off. Which is perfectly sensible that this works, because the cars are dynamic objects, so the gripper is set to filter things by dynamic object, and so it just picks up these guys like any other dynamic object. It was a little stupid when I realized that is actually the case. Anyway, yeah, another thing that is a little annoying. Yeah, okay, we can't really like grab that thing because of the shape. Another thing that's a little annoying with not having textures and materials is that like, or rather having just a placeholder material or a blockout material, as it's called, is that this thing doesn't pick up on any light probes. So it's very incorrectly lit in certain places. Like if we drive into this warehouse here, which is pretty dark, you can see that that this thing is just way too bright. Let's order one of those scouts to come in here, and we can sort of see the difference in lighting between these two guys. While it's driving here, we can see if we can mess around with some of this cargo. So this vehicle is relatively new. This level was created before the vehicle was created. In the pre-alpha 1 version, you can pick up things, but you can do it with an older gripper truck. And because of that, some of these things might like feel and play a little wonky with this, because it's like the level was originally made for a vehicle that's slightly smaller. It is, however, much nicer, like overall this thing. You can see the cargo there in the back is like almost completely black now, right? Compared to the vehicle, it looks very dark. I'm gonna put down the music volume just a tad. Something like that, maybe. Feel free to let me know if the audio levels are somehow borked. So, and that's because the materials don't pick up on any light probes. So if we turn off the light probes, you can see that like, oh, okay, now things are looking sort of like more even, except we need to essentially turn off all the indirect lighting if we want things to look the same, if you will. Now it sort of looks like this vehicle is kind of like, oh, okay, this belongs in the same world as everything else. To enable light maps, that darkens all the static stuff, and most of the static stuff anyway. And then you turn on light probes, and that darkens essentially the dynamic objects. Except it doesn't darken this truck now, because it uses a blockout material. So all of this is a little stupid here. And you can see like the light sort of gradually changing on these dynamic objects when we drive out, as you would expect, and on the Scout as well. So let's start working, shall we? And I'm gonna tackle the thing that kind of sometimes is pretty nice to do. Quite often it's not very nice to do. So we'll see how it turns out. And then of course I'm talking about UV unwrapping here. So you get to laugh at my misfortune here. So I try to unwrap this thing. This is a pretty complicated mesh, as you can see. We have basically like we have the main mesh. We have the gripper arm, which is made up of 3 parts. Though technically, I guess these fingers here are like the same mesh. At least they can be the same mesh. So 2 parts, 2 meshes essentially. Then we have like the bed. Where's the bed? Here we go. The bed is right there. We have the hatches. There's the actuators. Oh, that's something old. Fingers work in progress. There's the hatch. Oh, it might actually be under it. Yeah, it's right here. So we have the hatches, and these are all sort of actuated, articulated. Then we have the actuator here underneath. We have actuator 1 and 2. They're probably actually not in their place now. They're underneath here. So we need to do these. And then this weird thing here is like the suspension. So it gets like plugged into all of these suspension fixtures here. And then of course we have the wheel, which is just a single mesh, and then it gets instantiated 6 times. That's fine. But today we're gonna concentrate on this guy, because there's more than enough work on this to make it actually unwrapped. And let's see if I can remember how to use Blender. Sharp bevel seam. So we have seams. We do want seams visible. And let's just select something. So I have a pretty nice little UV what do you call this, add-on for Blender, which if I can remember how that works, you can see stretched. It's all stretched as all hell now, because we haven't unwrapped anything proper. So all the green parts are very, very stretched. If you look at the actual UV editor here, you can see that it's just completely crazy. It just goes completely crazy. We can throw like a checkered texture on it, and it will look very, very, very bad, like this. So that's not nice. Darken the image here. Maybe even turn on the stretching. Again, here you can see that like there's some stretch. We want blue, we don't want green. The colors can sometimes be a little confusing. Endless Fridge, hello, welcome to the stream. What is your approach to organize game objects, data and logic in runtime? Is it class hierarchy with base entity class, or objects with array of components, or something else? And why? Right. My approach is a little similar perhaps to Unity, to the monobehavior Unity style. And if you're asking why, well, that is because it's been like that for like the past 15 years. So let's see. I don't know how familiar you are with this project. For example, I don't know if you know that I write most of my gameplay logic in Zig these days, and so there's a whole like, you know, marshalling layer on top of that. But if we ignore that for a bit, and you can just use this engine to create a game in C++, that's completely fine. We have a game object, just like we have in monobehavior based Unity. This doesn't actually have a whole lot of state. It has a name and a type, and it has indeed a hash map of component pointers, and even a vector of ordered components, and some other stuff. But there's not like a huge number of things that you do on a game object. Then there is the game object component itself, which is indeed it is a base class for something that you then want to actually implement. So it looks like this. I don't really do very deep class hierarchies typically. You can see that this derives from propagated value container. I don't think that has like, no, that doesn't have a base class. And message sender and message receiver doesn't do either. But yeah, that is how it works on the C++ side. Then you just have something, you know, you have a mesh component, for example. Mesh component derives from that. It can also implement a bunch of interfaces. So I kind of typically try to stay somewhat close to what C# does, is in that you know you can derive from a base class, from a single base class, and then you can implement a number of interfaces. So resource listener, for example, is just an interface. It's happening data. It's not a hard rule, but that's kind of what I'm trying to stay close to, right? And then mesh components can have a bunch of data, and they can have a bunch of methods. They can even have something called an exposed property map, which is like essentially makes the thing available, makes the fields available to you to adjust and mess with in the level editor. And one thing that is kind of maybe a little strange, and also actually a little similar to what Unity does, is that like these components are actually created in the level editor itself. So you can write like level editor logic just in a straight normal game component, because it is technically running the game just in paused mode and with some other things adjusted for like editing. And then you know, if you go into the game, if you go into the editor, we have something called game object types, and these are sort of like kind of like prefabs if we're sort of sticking with the Unity comparison here. We have a whole bunch of different objects. If they don't have any sort of visual representation, or I've specifically told them not to generate a thumbnail, then they just get this Lego piece icon here. But for example, here we have the vehicles that's currently available. So here we have the gripper truck in all of its untextured glory. Flying Scout is actually just showing us the jetpack, not the Scout itself, but okay. And so what are these? Well, these are essentially like a set of components defined up front in something called a blueprint. So if we go to, you know, let's take a more simple object type here. Let's take a tree, spruce number 1, right? And it's found in the environment 1 env1 category. So what goes into spruce number 1? We can look here in env1.blueprint. We can even enable the asset preview here. We can find spruce number 1 here, right? So this is where you then assign those components to a game object. So you don't do this is where it starts differing from how Unity works. You don't create like an empty game object in the scene and then you add components to it. Instead, you sort of put them together beforehand, and that way you can then like instantiate things over the network by just having essentially like an integer, which is the hash of this env1 spruce 1 name. So what does this thing have? It has a static body transfer component. It has a mesh component, which is the trunk, right? Trunk mesh. It has another mesh component for the branches, right? So if we can like disable we disable those from the asset browser preview, you can see that, okay, now we have just a trunk here. That sort of thing. You can also see where the collisions are. That's a box. And we can see that the box is actually set up here. We have shapes, which is an array, and we have just a single element. We can add another one here if we want to. Like so. Make it a sphere. Make the radius 3, position 3, and save. And now we have another, collision here. That's one way to do it. Anyway, let's not break this thing. But that's kind of how you do that. And then you can instantiate these things in the level editor just by going into the editor here. Let's just make a new level here to demonstrate. And then we can find spruce number 1. Let's click it, and then we have it in the level. All right. Spruce number 2, or that's the red variant. Spruce number 2 is right there. Bloop. And we can move around, and then you can see all of these components here, along with their exposed properties. So that's where that exposed property map comes into play. Stuff like that. So we have transform, trunk mesh, and branch mesh, and they are, they're the same that we saw here. Transform, trunk mesh, and branch mesh. You can see that it also has an editor component. Where does that come from? Well, all objects get an editor component implicitly added to them while we are in the editor, and that allows us to like lock the thing. Now we can't click it accidentally if we want to lock something, unless we hold Alt, in which case we can sort of override that system. And we can also just hide it, so now it's hidden from the editor. That sort of thing. That's kind of it. That's like the basics of the game object system that I have. It's very old. It doesn't necessarily represent how I would do things these days if I started from scratch. But it's very sort of heavily integrated into everything, and it works pretty well, so I haven't messed around with it. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Let's keep going with the actual unwrapping then. So if we have this, we can start to identify here that okay, we have a few like obvious places to like put seams in, right? I think we're just gonna start with these easier parts. I'm gonna have to think about here how do I actually want this to kind of flow. I am by no means an expert when it comes to anything art related, by the way. I feel like I should say that every time I do work like this. Just because I'm completely self-taught. I've never really worked. Let's actually add that to the quick favorites now. Mark seam, just for this session. I'm completely self-taught when it comes to like Blender and art sort of workflows and all of that, right? So you shouldn't even accidentally go thinking that I know what I'm doing here, right? It's very interesting. Thanks for the explanation. No problem, no problem. Hey Marlon, welcome to the stream. Or welcome back, I should say, maybe. Right, so I think we're gonna do this now. We're gonna select those two guys and do like the inverse selection, so we get rid of everything else. These are sort of like almost like independent pieces, in the sense that they are sort of like floating on top of everything else. See if we can easily unwrap these guys. I don't want to mirror the UVs here, by the way. I don't think I really want to have any overlapping UVs necessarily. Because I typically go in on these vehicles, I typically go in and paint a little bit of dirt and crap on top of them by hand later on. So we're going to want to keep that in mind. Let's see, we can probably add relief seams here. So I haven't really done any UV unwrapping or UV mapping for like half a year at least. And so it always takes a little bit of time before it kind of comes back to you. Let's see, maybe do... How do I want to do it? Maybe I'll actually... I think I'm actually going to cut it here. And then up this way. Hello to... what is that? Is that Anton, maybe? Not really proficient in Cyrillic alphabet things. I think that might be Anton. Regardless, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Sometimes when I model all of these like nooks and crannies and everything, I just go like, oh, this is just gonna be a hell to unwrap nicely. And I kind of feel like this is one of those things again. Not making it easy for myself here. I think we're gonna probably cut it out so we get like a flat piece of geometry there. Oh, what? That's right. Okay. Okay, that's not at all how we want it done. In this case, we probably want it... Yeah, actually, that might work. That might work. Let's go with that. See what happens. So it just... it goes down into this sort of a pit. I think the issue here is that I have somehow still missed a vertex there. And there's something funky as well. What is going on? What's going on with this topography here? Should be fine. Let's see if we can manage to get it done. Yeah, I think that should be fine. We can always just do a quick unwrapping and then turn on stretching, and you can see that yes, starting to look better. Previously, I tried my very best to like always get like as little stretching as possible. But I've come to the realization that that's not necessarily always what you want. Sometimes you want to actually like quadrify pieces so that the texels kind of follow the shape of the object, even if that means that there's a little bit of stretching. A little bit of stretching might not be an issue at all. But if you're not like paying any attention to the stretching, then it's probably going to be a big issue later down the line. Okay. Look at that, we have basically no stretching anywhere. Beautiful. Yeah, like here, for example. If we take that island, and then we do, is it transform? It's actually probably that one. We could maybe quadrify this, and now we can see that like now it tries to like keep these lines running along the geometry. In this case, I think it's probably not going to like be worth it. You can see there's like crazy stretching now going on here. But sometimes it might be. So yeah, angle based. And again, we can turn on the what is it? It's that one. And here you can see like the difference between unwrapped and wrapped when it comes to stretching. The difference is pretty big. Okay, let's quickly do the other one. I want to do it basically the same way I did this one. By the way, yeah, okay, I left them like that. It might be fine or not. Should just go down like that. We can see, do we have the same issue here? We do, but probably not on this side, right? Oh, actually we have it on that as well. Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's a little annoying that it kind of keeps bringing back those other parts of the mesh, right? When you yeah, look at that. We have the same thing here again. Oh boy, that can't be helped. Let's just fix it once more. So now if we pull this, there should be no holes, right? Oh, no holes. And also here, pull, no holes. Here if we pull, we get holes. You can see there's the red one coming through. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So now then, no holes and no holes. So now if we actually do this check all non-manifold edges, we don't have any manifold edges there anymore. Just what we want. What is this then? It's the same thing. Oh, come on. I've clearly had some issues when I these wheel hubs here, in the sense that I made a lot of mistakes like this. Is that actually not? That looks like it is a problem. Check all. Yep. Yeah, we even have issues here. What's going on here? Look at that. It's really bad. What have I been thinking? Last. And once more. Last. There we go. Subdivide times 2. Alright, check all. Here we have some crap. Let's see if we can fix that crap by just merging by distance. We cannot. Okay. Yeah, you can see that there's clearly some funkiness going on with these guys. Okay, check all. Alright, now we don't have any manifold edges here. We have manifold edges sort of like along the back of this, which is what we actually want. That's completely fine, that's expected. Okay, save this. A lot of really weird stuff going on today. Invert, and let's keep going. So now we can do, I'm just gonna make sure and do it the same way as I do it here on this side. Yep, that looks good. So let's keep going and do the same way here. And here we have this surprising little bit there, but that actually turned out really well. So let's just go. Mark seam. And then that is that. And now if we do UV angle based, go back to Zen and view the stretched. You see that? Okay, yeah, we have some stretching still, of course. It's getting smaller and smaller, the area though. So here again we want to do this. We're gonna go around that and add some relief seams here. Up. Like so. And then we do this outer part. Oh, we even have some stretching here on this side now, and that is probably because we've fixed some of these issues that we were having. So what is actually happening? Right, this is what is happening. We need to cut out these pieces. Of course. That makes perfect sense. Up. And that should fix the stretching there. Yep. So let's do the same thing here. Good. And then I think we just went over this, right? Make sure. Yeah. That's just that. And then for this back side, what did we do here? I think it was just that one. And that one. And are we done? No, we're not quite done. So what I did here was I added a seam. Yeah. Added actually two seams. One that just goes along this outer edge and one along the inner. Which is a little unfortunate maybe. It's not necessarily the best use of UV space. Hey Arcane, welcome back. We're doing some UV unwrapping today. Right, so here is like, okay, we can clearly see that this is straight. We might actually also want these islands, so like that one, and that one to be. And I think this thing probably has world orient, right? No. Apparently not. Quadrify is gonna... I don't even know how this works anymore. Maybe we'll take the stretching, turn off the stretching for now. Like the tricky part here is that, okay, we wanna align it with like, I think that edge is the only one that we actually want to align it with. Maybe also that one. Yeah, that is probably also kind of world aligned or whatever. Here we can actually do maybe a little bit of simplifying. Hey Solar, welcome back. Welcome to this highly unplanned stream. I was telling people earlier that I was planning on watching a Zig roadmap presentation for 2026, and that got postponed because of some connectivity issues or whatever it was plaguing the stream there. So I figured, nah, okay. I had planned to watch that, but it's happening tomorrow apparently now, so I might as well just stream a little bit. Right, same thing here actually. Like, this is not really what you want necessarily. Let's see if we can fix this just by cutting up this into slightly different pieces. Maxime. And now we can see that, okay, now we're aligned here with both of those. And that is probably better. You're so locked in, I'm afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid. You're perfectly welcome to ask questions. If you ask a question and I don't see it immediately, usually just wait a little bit and I'll occasionally check out the chat. Like I said, I wasn't even planning on really working today. I was planning on watching that presentation. And then this is just me using this time for something that I need to be doing sooner or later anyway. So there we go. That would be the rear wheel hubs, I think. Looking pretty snazzy. Some of this should arguably be aligned a little better with the world coordinate or the UV space coordinates. But that's something that we can look at later. That's even something that I might want to use another plugin that I have for. The main thing right now is just to get these islands set up, right? Let's hide those guys, and we can continue with the rest of this thing. The question though is, where do we start? Maybe with this middle section, because it looks like one of the easier ones. So here's a little bit of an actuator bit. Actually, let's just run it all the way there. We can go back here, up there, and down there. How about that? And here's where the actuator is actually fastened. This should be almost trivial to do. Oh, not like that though. Why is this? Where is that on the UV map? Apparently it's nowhere. Okay, let's see. What is your opinion on Zig standard library? Is it batteries included enough? Is it quality enough? Is it performant enough? How would you describe it? How good or bad Zig standard library is? Music is fire. That's good. Regarding the music, first of all, I got a subscription, or a trial, I should say, for what is it called? I'm drawing a blank. Epidemic Music. So I'm actually allowed to play this music for you guys. I'm hoping it will be a little nicer than what I've used in the past. Right. Regarding the Zig standard library. One thing that I think is sort of like defining a standard library for me, at least, is just how readable the code is. Right? That's like the number one thing for me with the Zig standard library. It is, of course, not as batteries included as something like Python standard library, or the .NET framework, or .NET Core, whatever it's called these days. All of those blow it out of the water, for sure. However, I am not really, used to working with those standard libraries, or indeed necessarily those languages. I mean, yes, I do write a bit of C# occasionally, but the fact remains is that, like, I'm not really used to having a standard library that is as batteries included as some people might want and expect. So for me, it's actually like perfectly fine the way it is when it comes to, like, all the stuff that it has included. Did I actually subdivide that? That was stupid of me. There we go. That looks pretty alright. Stretched. Let's have a look at the standard library a little bit. So first of all, you know, I'm used to seeing stuff like this. STL containers, right? C++ standard library. Let's do like a push back, which is actually just an in place back these days. You know, this kind of stuff in place with unused capacity. I mean, you can sort of read this, but it's not very nice to read. Actually, this is not horrible. I was expecting much worse stuff, but I guess I haven't really looked at you know, VS 2019's STL in a bit. But anyway, this is not very readable. You know, try begin, you move, catch all from range, destroy, re-erase, catch end. I'm used to reading this kind of thing and then going like, oh, I wish this was actually written by someone who cared about how that looked. And then if you go into, you know, array list in Zig, and we look at the same thing, so that would be probably append. Right, here we go. Here's append, just like the closest thing to std vector in place back that you have, I guess, or pushback maybe is the closer one to append. But anyway, it's commented. It is using very clear sort of and consistent naming of things. There's even a comment here. This can never overflow because self item can never occupy the whole address space. Ensure total capacity. I'm pretty sure this is just actually written by a person and not generated or anything like that. That's pretty nice. Interesting read on interesting take on stdlib being readable. If you want to go read C stdlib source code, go and read muscle. Yeah. As far as I know, readable stdlibs are lacking on performance. Well, I kind of get where you're coming from, but I don't really believe that to be true. It is true that if you write code to be super obvious and easy to read, it might mean that you're not doing some of the like really hardcore optimization things, because you're trying to keep the code readable and clear, right? That's your priority rather than just maximizing performance. Then of course, if you are really careful and you want to write a standard library that reads really well and is easy to understand but also performs well, then what you want to do is you want to look at the assembly code that it generates. And you want to look at that assembly code that is generated on multiple different compilers. And you want to make sure that it actually compiles good code. The fact that the code is readable doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the runtime performance, if that makes sense. But yes, I understand your way of thinking here. I just don't really think that's necessarily an issue. Hello, do you actually use imgui between C#, C++, and Zig? I don't use it from C#, no. But I use it from C++ and Zig. The idiomatic way to use imgui from Zig is just to include the headers. Actually, that might not be the case. I might be wrong on that. I've never done it. Though I know that there are wrappers for imgui. There are Zig wrappers for imgui. And I think that actually probably makes sense now that I think about it, because imgui is written in C++, right? It's not C. So it wouldn't actually be able to necessarily include the headers and use it that way. I have my own wrapper for sort of like a subset of imgui that I use. And if I need something more and I don't have it, I just add it there. And the reason I do that is that I use imgui sort of through my game engine. So I just expose it to Zig just the same way I expose all the other things. How to get an assembly list file out of Zig compiler? You go to Godbolt, right? Compiler Explorer, and then it's actually already at Zig here. I haven't ran this in a while. Let's see what happens. There we go. Program returns 0. Compiler output. How does this work now? Oh, this is a really old one, by the way. Probably want to be on the latest. I guess you can also probably... Oh, I don't even know how this works anymore. Where's my thing? Can I reset my view somehow? I don't know how to use this anymore. Add new. Yeah, you may now commence your laughing at me, because I don't exactly know where to find that anymore. Anyway, you can probably get output from just a debugger, right? Like view disassembly. So if we put a let's put a breakpoint somewhere where I know it's going to bounce back into Zig code. Core Zig bindings. No, that's not what it's called. Basis Zig core bindings. That's what it's called. So if we put a breakpoint here in heap alloc, I'm gonna run this. I'm gonna step forward. I'm gonna step into Zig code. So here we are in Zig. Here, for example. Go to disassembly. Does it actually not show you this? Oh. Alright. Visual Studio doesn't like when you do that, apparently. Let's see, can Remedy BG show you more stuff? Let's debug. Let's not do it. Let's do release. Yeah, I very rarely go into disassembly. I tend to optimize on an algorithmic level rather than the assembly level. What's that actually called? Core heap alloc, where's this called from? Memory.zig, makes sense. Makes sense, doesn't it? It's not here. It's probably in base. There we go. So what if we put a breakpoint here then? Right, here we can see disassembly. So this at least works, right? Remedy BG to the rescue. Compiler can't optimize a bad algorithm. Yeah, in most cases, depends on what it is, of course. Like if it's like some sort of compiler intrinsic, then it has some more information about what's going on. But yes, that is kind of what I typically do. Anyway, Remedy BG seems to be one way to get disassembly, at least on Windows. I would also try the RAD debugger. It is supposedly pretty good with Zig. So do try the RAD debugger. If you have the chance and you want to know more. I haven't run this for a while, but the RAD debugger project. Try it out and report to me how well it works with Zig, please. That's your homework for today. I was gonna continue just a little bit more on this standard library stuff. You were asking how batteries included it is. It is kind of just the right amount of batteries included for me. I typically have here in my solution, or whatever this is called, in VS Code, code workspace, I have a link here to the standard library for the version of Zig that I'm currently using. And I don't use like a whole lot of stuff from the Zig standard library apart from like the containers and stuff, but there's a few things that I do. For example, I use their JSON parsing library or JSON processing library, which works, well enough. I also use their I think it was murmur hash. So we go to string.zig. This is not their code, by the way. This is my code. Make string hash. Yes, murmur 3. So this is what I actually used before. I'm still using, but before I started using Zig, I used murmur 3 in C# and C++, and I was, happy to see that actually they had an implementation of this right in the standard library and that sort of thing. There's also some pretty handy like meta programming things in here, like Gripper Truck ARM component. So if you have an enum like this, an enum with three values, you can use stud.enums. I have it right here. Stud enum values graph length. You get the length at compile time from that guy, and you can use it with like for loops here to like iterate over all the values in the enum, things like this. I find it very nice to use and very easy to understand. And there are just like a whole bunch of things in here that I don't use. They even have a ring buffer now. Oh. I think I have one as well. Yep. Is that the equivalent of GCC clangs.s to just dump the plain LST file. If it's like an LLVM thing, then I bet it actually works. Especially if you're using the LLVM backend, right? It might just work, because they have actually Clang in the Zig compiler, right? Zig also compiles C and C++. So, I don't know, try it. Keep in mind though that I'm not very knowledgeable when it comes to Clang or GCC or anything like that. I'm very much like a Windows person through and through, seeing as the companies that I've worked for and still work for are like Windows houses. So I know MSVC somewhat, and then, you know, I know Zig, I know the Windows and MSVC sort of adjacent parts of Zig. But if there's like a GCC or Clang flag, then I'm not your guy for that sort of thing. Right. Another thing to keep in mind is that this is not like a final standard library. I think a lot of this stuff has been added sort of as experiments, as they have been sort of extending and developing the language. And so they've even said that there's some cleanup to be done in the standard library before all of this is finalized and before Zig reaches 1.0. But I think that a lot of the stuff in here, if you know that something is going to be sort of deprecated, you can just go back to a version that had it and like copy it out of the standard library, and then maintain it yourself, sort of vendor it yourself. And the formatting stuff is pretty nice. You know, and oh, one thing that is very nice about this, I should definitely mention that, is the tests. So if you have, let's go back to the array list. Right, you have the array list. This is the equivalent of the std vector in C++. And if you're like, okay, so how does one use this thing? You go. Actually, you can just do this. You can do test space and quotes. And sooner or later, typically towards the end of the file, but these can be sprinkled a little bit in different places depending on the module. But here we have them towards the end of the file, and you can just see the tests here. And this is super easy. I mean, with an array list, it's not very difficult to see how you are to be using this thing. But if you have something more complicated, well, we can look at the formatting stuff, for example. Just see like how are you supposed to actually like use these formatting strings here. It's very, very nice to see all the usage here is kind of like listed in the tests themselves. So if you're like, okay, how do I print an array? You can just have a look here and see what happens. You can even run these tests. And there are a whole lot of tests, as you can see. Test. And this is true with like not necessarily all of the standard library, but a lot of it, right? Hashmap. I bet this has a bunch of tests as well. Here we go, tests. The bottom third of the hashmap module is just tests. So this is very, very, very cool and a very good way to learn how to use something. I like the fact that the MSVC MS build VS setup just allows you to manage more stuff from VS GUI rather than using command prompt. Yeah. MS Build is like notoriously convoluted though. I'm not a fan, for being honest. I'm not a fan of their XML based configuration and scripting in MS Build. That's not very nice, in my opinion. Thanks for a thorough answer. No problem. No problem. Let's go back to UV mapping, shall we? See if I can actually do some work. Again, like I've said many times recently, just don't hold off with your questions. If you have a question, just ask it. It's fine. That said, I'm gonna try to do a bit of the actual stuff I was meant to do today. I don't know why I do that. Keep clicking the wrong button. How do I wanna do some of these things? I think I don't necessarily want to go very far from the back here with these big sort of UV islands. And what you want to typically do here is sort of like find sharp edges, like this one here, and then just put your seams there. Try to not put seams in sort of like the middle of a flat place, or a place that's not necessarily flat but has just smooth edges. It is probably quite obvious if you think about it, but still it's not. Sometimes make it a little tricky to avoid. So here we have actually a case where I'm just gonna do it without any qualms, because if you see that like this wheel hub almost covers up the seam completely. There's just a little bit of seam there at the top, doesn't get covered. So this is just an excellent place to put a seam, actually. Just immediately contradicting what I just said. And here we might want to be a little more careful. Let's cut it like that, right? Sidetrack from being locked in. Absolutely, I did, but it's not a problem necessarily. Okay, let's see if I can I replicate this on the other side. Oh, this is looking funky. What is going on here though? Yeah, okay. It looks like that for some reason. This thing is very sort of weirdly aligned, though. I wanna understand why. Is it maybe because of that? Wait. Yeah, I bet it's because of that. Yeah, look at that. Now it's properly aligned again. If VS never make use of GUIs for managing most of the MS Build internals, then I'd be using CMake. Yeah, see, the problem is that like sometimes you get internal errors from the compiler or from MS Build itself when you're building something in Visual Studio. And then when you click the error, it shows you the place in the XML in the MS Build configuration, which is typically like either generated or then something that's like not written by you but written by Microsoft's dudes. And you know, that makes me cry whenever I have to deal with that stuff. Because just like most C++ error messages, like the problem is typically somewhere completely different. It's not where it's actually showing the error. It's erroring out on something, but it's because of some issue somewhere else, right? That's sort of like how errors work in C++. I feel. Right, so this is now wonky, and that's because we need to probably cut it up here as well. But that would be a little unfortunate to have to do. Yeah, I think we're still gonna. Yeah, we're just gonna do it. We're gonna cut it like that. And now we get a nice looking thing here. So some of this looks super pixelated, and that is of course because like the scale for these islands is not like we haven't really considered that at all yet. We will consider it though, just a second. Or rather, we will consider it when we do the final packing of them. Let's hide these tanks for now. Probably actually want to hide all of this as well. And even those things. Alright, so where should I go next then? Maybe I can do the back. Let's have a quick look at the stretching. How's the stretching looking? We can sort of see where we've done the stuff. Where we've done the work. I think these. Do those actually need any sort of end piece? Probably not. Probably not, right? Oh, they're flipped, are they? Okay, but that's just probably because I haven't really unwrapped them at all. Yeah, see, because the truck bed actually appears on top of that stuff. So this is just here to basically like go into the sides of that. So the question is, Will the bed ever come off? And will that then be a problem? It would be kind of nice to just not have to deal with that at all. And if we do this, we separate out those guys. And then we join them together like that. Up, up, that's not what we want. That one and that one. Yep, now they're there. Smooth by angle though. 30.1 apparently. Oh, that's not enough for those guys. Oh. How far do we have to go? 36, 30.1, 36. Yeah. 0.1. It's another part of this guy instead, and I think that's probably better. So then we don't have to care about whether they have end pieces or not, because these guys will now always be inside of this. Oh, and there's some other crap in here. What? What? I can't select that thing. I can't select that thing. Oh, there's a mirror modifier. That might be why. Apply. Let's see, now we can select it. Okay, get rid of that, get rid of that. There we go. Yeah, okay. We actually have probably the double the geometry here on both sides. So let's get rid of one of these. Now if we take away more, now it's gonna actually disappear. Yep. Okay. Well, that was a bit of a detour, but now we're back with this. Coolio. Let's keep going here at the back of the vehicle. It should be a relatively simple thing to unwrap. So let's add a seam there and add a seam to all of these places. I bet there's some really good AI unwrappers these days, right? That's a completely unnecessary switch right there. Let's take it away. Yeah, there's got to be tools to do this. In fact, I know there are. I've even tried a few of them. They haven't really been all that impressive, but may just be skill issue on my part, even though, you know, they kind of, the point of them is that they shouldn't really require any skill. They should have the skill. And you shouldn't have to worry. At least that's the promise of many of these tools. But then in practice it's not necessarily always that simple. Okay, here's again one of these places where I'm just like, what was I thinking making it this complicated? I have a feeling that, like, being a very good 3D modeler also means that you can sort of refrain from making things like this. Very complicated setups. You can make things look good with less, right? Unfortunately, I'm not a very good 3D modeler by any means. I kind of make do, but that's sort of the gist of it, the end of it. Right, we need to add some seams there. That should clear up that wonkiness, and it does. Good, good. How should we tackle this thing now? Yeah, I think I'm just gonna quite simply, I'm gonna cut maybe analysis paralysis. I have so many options. How long are you planning to stream? I wasn't planning on streaming at all today, so I'm not really planning on anything. If that makes sense. Well, yeah, honestly, I don't know. It would be cool to get this mesh unwrapped, right? And we have little less than 50% done, I would say. I don't know if I'm gonna do this, do it all today. But don't let me stand in the way of your work, regardless of how long I do this. I think some of you have mentioned previously that you do work while I yap on in the background. If I can provide that service to you, then that sounds good. And if that's what you're asking, then I'm probably going to yap for a little while longer, yes. I do believe that is going to be the case. But if you're sort of waiting for me to finish and then do your work, then yeah, don't do that. Just do your work. Do the thing. Don't let me stand in your way of being productive. That is not my intention. This just looks weird. I want to fix this because I don't know why I've sort of cut these like this. I don't think it was necessarily intentional. So let's assume it wasn't and just snap them to the end there. Barrel worth of coffee sounds good though. I've had to sort of cut down my coffee intake a little bit. I've had my very much not a barrel of coffee today already, and I can't have any more. How in the seven hells am I going to unwrap this bastard? Something like this, maybe? Mark seams there. And then go down there. Would that work? I'm kind of thinking it probably will. Stretcheroo. So like if you consider sort of the top of one of these modules to be more or less flat, then maybe we'll try to make those into an island. Clicking away. Honestly, I have no idea how I'm supposed to unwrap this monstrosity of a thing. Let's try to come up with something and see how well that works. It's actually that and that, like so. Mark seam. Oh, and then here we can actually, yeah, we can go like this. Let's clear those seams. Clear seam. That might. Maybe that's not really what we want to do. Like, who in their right mind puts this much detail underneath the car? In a place where almost no player is gonna see it. Who is that stupid? I ask you. Alright, now at least we have that. We have like a way to unwrap one of these things. That looks all right, I guess. Again, it's under the car, so it's probably not the most important part of the whole model to get it unwrapped properly or in the best fashion. But still, let's try to do it. I wonder if it makes sense to do like all of these, do sort of the same thing for all of these in a row, like this. Mark. Something like that, and then cut out these guys. Right. That's how I did it here, wasn't it? Alright, we're almost done with these wheel assemblies here in the back. Still have the ones in the front, but they're arguably perhaps a little more simple than the ones in the back. Right. Let's have a look. How did we do? We did pretty well. I have some stuff here still that I haven't properly unwrapped, but yeah, it's starting to look pretty all right. Yeah, let's keep going with this. Let's see, what do we have here? Just like a jumble of faces. What do we do about this? Something like that, maybe. Something like that, maybe. Just cut it up. That. Yeah. Looking pretty good. All right. So we're sort of like maybe halfway there, maybe a third, I don't know. But not all of these places are like equally complex. Like, for example, these pipes here and axles and whatever these are actually kind of simple to do. Let's do them now in one go. So we have, let's see. Yeah, that needs to be one seam. Here we have another. That's a seam. That's a seam. Then we have like this guy, which goes all the way over. That's a seam. Maybe we can even kind of isolate these guys for a bit and see what we have. So that one should be completely done. No, not quite. It's not quite done. We need to do those two. And clear seam, like so. And then here we have kind of the same setup. So that's one seam. That's one. No, that, and that. Those are seams. And then that is probably a seam. And then I think I'm just gonna cut that straight over like that. Same thing here. What do we have here? So putting seams on the top of everything here, because they're going to be facing the vehicle underside, so no one is going to be able to see them, even if the vehicle is like upside down. Yeah, we have a little bit of stretching going on here. I don't know if it really matters. I think that's probably good enough. We can always try to make that a bit more straight if we want to. That does mean that we kind of introduce these potentially visible seams here, but I think that's probably fine. What do we have here then? I could use a seam, I think. Maybe even these places. I think that's fine. That is going to work. So now we take this, and again we need to unhide some things here. Let's do yeah, that is how we can get those individual pieces taken away. Alrighty then. So maybe we should like cut off this cabin from the rest of the thing. Well, it kind of flows into the rest of the thing, so there's not necessarily like an easy way to do said cut, but let's see what we can come up with. This is no doubt the most geometrically complicated of the vehicles. It's even more complicated than the mother vehicle, I'm pretty sure. Like here, for example, it would be very nice to be able to like cut somewhere here, but these are all just flat areas, so it's a little unfortunate to have to like introduce seams here. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut here along this one, because it's covered almost, well not almost, it's covered like half of it is covered by that tank there. Fuel tank or whatever we decided that was. So that would be a good place to cut it. And here we have an angle. That's probably also fine. A fine place to cut. Oh, here we have something funky. Yep, here's something funky. Oh, that's because, yeah. Never mind. I have this one still here. That's why. Rightio. So what do we do about this now then? Let's go here first. I'm gonna cut again along here. And there, and there. Like so. And again, we can see sort of which of these parts are gonna be covered up by something. I think it's pretty obvious that we need to cut it down here and all the way there. This area should be pretty easy to do. Can maybe even take these these guys out. That one, yeah, we can take that guy out. That'll work just fine as an island. And then why not actually fold this onto the island as well? Not that. Alright, we have a little bit of stretching here. What can we do about that? Maybe that just needs to be cut up into its own piece, like so. You said you get strikes. Isn't this playlist royalty free? What? If you're talking about the music here, which I assume you are, this playlist is from Epidemic Music, which is a paid for music service, which is meant for things like streaming or video production or whatever. That's kind of the point of it. And so I don't know if royalty free is the correct term here. It may be, but basically I am licensed to use this music in streams and videos as long as I whitelist my channel. And I pay. So I'm thinking like royalty free is probably not the right term, right? It's just that it's licensed for this stuff. I want to see what does that look like when it gets, you know, folded onto the UV there. Looks like that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. To be honest, I think that looks probably quite fine. There's a little stretching there, but it doesn't really necessarily matter. Though on the other hand, that's not what we want. On the other hand, we can probably quite easily just cut this a little bit. Maybe we'll cut it actually like this, right? Cut it like that. Fatal mistake. Oh no. What? What's a fatal mistake? Yeah, I got a little annoyed at the music available for streaming on YouTube, right? And I mean, it makes perfect sense. No one is really giving away music for free on YouTube. Well, some people are. I think I've found and used the playlist that I thought were actually pretty good. But I got a little annoyed at them with time. Like, the quality was okay, but like the quantity of stuff that I was comfortable using was pretty minimal, so it got a little samey. And at least like Epidemic Music has like 50,000 songs or something like that. And even some semi-big artists, not like anything super well known, but music that is I feel pretty good for streams and things like this. So that's what I'm going with, at least for a while. Okay, so how do we want to do this now? Let's hide this guy for a bit. We can have a better look at what we're dealing with here. Too stretched again. Yeah, it's really only like the front that we have left here to do. This is gonna be a tricky one to pack, but fortunately, not unfortunately, but fortunately, I have Packmaster 3000, which is a super awesome UV packing add-on for Blender. It uses the GPU to do like heuristic packings. You just leave it running and it gets you good packing results. But yeah, this is gonna be a big one. It's probably like the most complicated thing to texture and UV unwrap so far in the game. So that's something. That's a factoid for you people. And while we're at it, I can yap a little bit about happenings with the project. If we have someone in the stream who don't really know what this is about, so we're only a few days away from pre-alpha 2, the new build of this game called Traction Point, which we are making, and pre-alpha 2 will be available to you to play on the 7th, so that would be next week's Monday. And it's a pretty early build. It's only the second public, or at least semi-public build that I've ever released of the game. So expect jankiness and funkiness and weird things, but still, it's a playable game. I'd love it if you checked it out and gave me some feedback. There is already pre-alpha 1 that you can play today if you want to. But I would almost recommend that you wait until pre-alpha 2 if you haven't played the game already, because it's just going to be so much better, quite simply. And you can play both pre-alpha 1 and pre-alpha 2 when it launches by joining the Discord, and you will get access to the build that way. Pre-alpha 2 might be the last build that I ask people to join the Discord for. I'm planning on moving over to Steam after pre-alpha 2. So pre-alpha 3 and onwards should be on Steam, if all goes well. But that's that. You're free to join whether or not you want to try the game. There's all sorts of discussion going on there related to game development, gaming, music, all kinds of things. We're a friendly little bunch. So just hop on over if that sounds like your thing. One seam there, one seam there, and then we let the rest of it sort of flow up that way. How would that go? Alright, we have a little bit of stretching here, but that makes perfect sense. We haven't done anything to these guys yet. Approximately what is the final download and install size of the game? That's impossible for me to tell at the current time. Pre-alpha 1 was if I remember remember correctly, it was about 420 or something like that. That ballpark. But there's a whole lot of campaign still to be added to the game. A whole lot of content to be added. So I have no idea how big it's gonna be. Probably a few gigabytes. If you want an estimate. Okay, we need to do something here. What do we do? Do we do this, maybe? Something like that. Now yeah, that fixes the stretching. Right. How are we looking? Yeah. Okay, there's a little bit of stretching here. Probably want to do something about that. I'm thinking we'll probably just mark that as a seam and that as a seam, because those are so sort of sharp anyway. Yep, that looks better. How much are you bumped about C++ reflections being added to ISO? I assume by bumped you mean like how excited I am for that. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really follow C++ versions, additions all that well. So I wasn't aware of that thing. But sounds like a good thing. Without really knowing anything. How it's gonna work? Is it gonna be runtime reflection? It's gonna be compile time reflection? So difficult to say. I haven't necessarily been all that impressed by what the C++ standards committee has been doing as of late. But I do acknowledge that that's probably like mostly just well, I'm not exactly sure, but it might just be like an sort of a lack of caring on my part at this point. It's not that I don't care about C++. I work, of course, with C++ on this project, and I also work with it professionally at another company. And we have a huge C++ code base, and we also have some people who are like super into C++. the extent that they are like hosting official C++ events and things like that. And I kind of just don't care, to be honest, because I try to keep my C++ code so very basic and simple that I never have to really think about if it's gonna compile on some specific compiler version or platform. And so on. It's just easier. Makes it easier to sleep at night. But yeah, I should probably check out some of the things. There's another feature. Is it like concepts maybe? People have been raving about for some time. I have no idea what that means. I should check that out as well. Oh. I need to be careful here with these faces. Well, yeah, it's not like I don't care about C++. The overwhelming majority of overwhelming majority of code in this project is C++. Like I said in a previous stream that I probably have like 10 times more C++ than I have Zig. I still believe that to be the case, and I don't think Zig is gonna win that necessarily ever in this code base. It's always going to be more C++ than there is Zig. And so I do care about C++, but like a lot of those new fancy things, I'm almost sort of like willingly like leaving on the table, because I'm quite simply more excited about other languages these days. So I kind of view C++ as a necessary evil. In order to be able to like use things like physics, for example, or NVRHI. Wow, I really don't know how to unwrap this cabin. What is that? Is that that's an actual face? I do wonder if we actually need that face for anything. Kind of thinking we don't. Probably don't need that for anything. Let's see if we can do this. Can we merge those? Center, and so on. Just simplify that a little bit, since it's gonna be, that hole is gonna be sort of filled with the gripper arm anyway. Right, let's see. Median point is probably what we want here. Something like that. But yeah, C++ reflection sounds like a good addition. No doubt about it. I hope it turns out to be one of their better additions, right? It's compile time reflection, but they've ordered in some additional stuff as well. Some C++ programmers are levitating right now. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. I need to check in with my C++ gurus next time I'm at the office and get their take on it. Because sometimes when I hear this sort of stuff, I mean, I don't doubt what you're saying. I believe it. But sometimes when I hear stuff like this, and then I talk to like game developers, and they're like, yeah, well, that's just completely unusable for, you know, any number of reasons or whatever. And then it's like, oh, okay. I won't be using it, or like we can't use it because of blah blah blah. There's always like a delay between when you can actually use something, or delay between when something comes out and you can actually use it, even if it is supported in let's say Visual Studio. It's like, oh, it's not supported on the PlayStation or whatever. Or the other way around, for that matter. That might also be the case, but I think Microsoft is pretty good at like supporting new things kind of quickly these days. That might not always be the case. That has not always been the case. Oh, that's not right. I misclicked. But actually these should be cut out as well, so I might as well do it now. Alright, how's that wheel hub looking? It's looking kind of okay. Still need to cut out this outer edge though. Alright, that's looking pretty decent, I think. We have something strange going on here though. Right, yeah, that it's this thing again. Let's cut those out. Probably that way. Right, something like that. Yeah, now it's straight again. You can see that the lines are running along the vehicle again. Yeah, that can be a weird thing sometimes to try to find. Like, why is it like all crooked? It might even be straight, but it might just be like rotated. I'm like, why is it not running along the vehicle's actual lines? And there's just like one tiny little edge somewhere that you missed. Up, 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 up. Do we have the same thing here again? Yes, we do. Okay. Do we have the same thing here again? And we don't. Do we? I don't think we do. No. We don't have it there. We have it here. What is this? What is this madness? Actually, let's do, before we do anything else, let's do a check all. You can see that, yeah, we have some stuff there. It's not actually here. Okay. Yeah, we have same business here we had in the back there in the beginning of the stream. Okay. What's that about? Check all. Okay, there's still some funky monkey business going on here. Yeah, I think that's better. That is probably better. So check all. Now we don't have any monkey business there anymore. Okay. Good. Rightio, I'm probably going to end this in a little bit. Let's see how did I do this on the other side? Yeah, those things are cut out. Okay. Yeah, I'm probably gonna end this somewhat soon. See if we can get to some logical stopping point here. Like work-wise, it's been a pretty good stream. It's been pretty nice chatting with you folks. But has of course been a pretty quiet stream, and with good reason. I mean, I'm just basically sitting here working, occasionally yapping. Free to give me feedback, by the way, on these things. Like, if the format is working or it's not working, or you want to you want to see something particular, want me to stream about some particular thing. Whoops. All of that is fine to let me know, because I might not always know what people want. At the same time, I'm mostly okay with streaming about things that people are interested in, as long as it's somehow related to this work and this project. So be sure to let me know in the comments or on Discord, or just tell me in person. If you see me on the street, you can go like, hey, that stream was bad. You should be ashamed of yourselves. And you can do that as well. Okay, is that all? All of that's done, I think. So what do we have here? We have a little bit of stretching here. And yeah, that makes sense because of how this is set up. Let's, no, let's not do that. Let's cut there, and then let's cut there and there. And I think that might fix it. Look at that. Beautiful blue. Beautiful blueness. But yeah, overall, do let me know. Do you want me to continue doing streams like this, where I just basically go like, okay, I need to work. Let's work. And then I just do that. I do believe my audience is somewhat programmer heavy. So some of these art streams might not necessarily do it for some of you. That's completely fine. Doesn't mean I necessarily am gonna stop doing them. Might just be that I might want to prioritize like tech stuff. If that's what you're interested in. I still need to do these things because I still need to launch the game. And some of these things need to be done for the game. But if I know that like you'd rather see me stream more technical stuff, then that's completely fine. And by technical I mostly mean like, you know, doing gameplay programming or something like that. Occasionally I might do some even more technical things. Just the other day I did a game engine programming stream, which was pretty popular actually, I might add. And so that was fun. What do we have that's stretching this? Oh, of course we have this thing. The inner seam there, yeah. Yeah, that looks decent. how to cut this up now then. Probably at least along these wind screens here. These need to be cut up properly. Maybe there and there. Let's do that. The other side as well. For me, any cozy coding stream is a good stream. I put in the background to my coding. Okay. Well, I think I can provide that. That said, you're always welcome to give me feedback on what you want to see, right? But yeah, I'm happy if I can provide cozy background noise. Whatever you want to call it. I'm almost done with this cabin now, which means that should be a pretty good stopping point, I think. I'm gonna have to see if it actually kind of gets good. This is actually a oh Jesus, I was worried Blender would crash on me there. Luckily not. Remember to save, everyone. Yeah, I think I need to add some more music to my list here. This is just something I quickly threw together the other day for that other stream that I was doing. It's been repeated a few times now throughout this stream as well. Right, so how do we do this? Maybe that. Maybe that's a good thing. I think we're gonna want to end this maybe there. Do the same there. That's that. Cut that out. And look at that. Now we have very little stretching actually anymore. I think we're gonna need a relief seam there and another one. What? No. Those two. I need to check for overlaps immediately. There's some overlaps here. That is probably just something strange going on. Right, it's actually the overlaps that is like slow here. Let's see where is it? It's right there. If I move this away. Okay, that's fine. It will be solved by the backing then anyway. So here's a little bit of a strange island. Let's see if we can do something about this. Except I don't know, maybe that's fine. A little bit of stretching there, a little bit of stretching there. That might actually just be completely fine. I don't know. This one we can just cut up like this. Mark seam and cut and stretch, and it turns completely blue. That's nice. Nice and neat. What about this little thing? Probably like that, and then relief seams in there. That's that. All right, folks, that kind of looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a question here how I actually should, like, essentially like that island. How should I actually unwrap that island? Or should I just leave it as it is? And then maybe just rotate it. We could try doing this. Mark that as a seam. Unwrapping. And that at least gets us... Yeah, I think that might actually make sense. And then we could even try that. What would that do? That doesn't really do anything sensible. But at least cutting out this piece here seemed to do the trick for like a pretty significant part of that side there. Yeah, it's a little bit of a strange island to be sure, but I don't know. It's not necessarily that bad. I'm gonna like how these lines flow here actually. This looks a little different actually. Why is that? Oh, it's because we have that there still. Clear seam. There we go. Now we have the same sort of thing. So, yeah. That basically has us finishing the main mesh here. And I think it's pretty good. So what I can do now, I can just like as a fun little thing to end this with, we can do a test packing of this guy with Packmaster 3000, which I spoke about earlier. So if we have, let's see, I'm gonna hide again all of the things that I don't want included here. So that involves these wheel assemblies. Hide those. Axles. Hide those. And hide these tanks. Basically everything that I haven't done yet. That there's a face we can take away. Hide those. And then the front wheel assemblies. Switcheroo. These pipes we can actually leave because they're properly unwrapped. So everything here now should be kind of decently done. We have a few places with a little bit of stretching. The rest of it is almost completely blue. So now we take this guy and we open up Packmaster 3000, margin to 0.007, do the heuristic search, and I think that might be it, right? Let me just back. Let's hope the stream doesn't die on us here. So we can see that we are packing using the CPU and we are packing using the GPU. This has a not a very good GPU, it's a 2060, and it's finding better results for us, 0.53. Typically I try to go for something like 0.7, but I don't think there's any chance of me reaching that level here. But with a mesh like this, I can just leave this running for like 10 minutes or something. You can see that we're already sort of reaching diminishing returns here. And of course we still want to cram more things into the texture. So this is gonna have to be like at least 2K texture for this one. Because we have the tanks, we have the wheel assemblies, and so on. So 0.53, that's actually not very good. I'd have to cut up some of those things into smaller islands or merge them into larger islands. It's finding like 535 multiple times. So it just finds things with like 3 decimal places, 4 decimal places. An improvement of 4 decimal places is not very good. But anyway, let's just cancel that for now. We can have a look here. So it kind of looks like we have a better, nicer text to use here for this thing now. The map we have going is 512 by 512, so it's, if we do a Zen color 2048 by 2048, this is now what a 2K map would look like on this. Just like, yeah, it's approaching the level that I need for the game. Could be better, and of course we're gonna lose a little bit of UV map to these things, which of course we can throw on a different texture. That's not really a problem. But I don't actually expect these things to require all that much. Like some of these larger tanks, maybe this front piece here, it's going to require a little bit more than the others. And then I might want to scale down some of these areas that are like the bottom parts, for example, probably don't require as much as the top one. This piece here in the middle, which is most of the time it gets covered by the bed, doesn't require all that much either, and so on and so forth. So I think we're pretty alright. I think we're pretty good with this. If I scale down those, I of course can use that space in other areas. That's quite simply how it goes. But yeah, this was a whole thing to unwrap. But I think we're on to a pretty good start here. So I'm gonna have to continue working on this, texturing this tomorrow. But thank you to everyone who came to hang out today. This was fun. I got some work done. I hope it was interesting and fun for you as well. Do check out the Discord server if you're interested in playing the game. Like, subscribe, do all of the usual YouTube jazz. And let me know in the comments, either here on YouTube or on Discord, if you're interested in me covering a specific thing on video or on stream or whatever. You can of course always just come ask me on Discord. That is probably the easiest way to reach me these days. With that, I thank you for your time. Have an excellent evening. See you next time.